always sunny down in Mexico. The sun gets high when I get low. The only way to get there is to let yourself go. Good times are made in Mexico.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BAI podcast. I'm Tim, this is James, and this is Madeline, and we are not Julia this time. So today we will be discussing an actual bride about her actual destination wedding and grilling her on all the ins and outs on what you need to know before you do your destination wedding.
An actual bride, but also an actual travel agent. So she's somebody who's experienced both sides of the wedding world at this point. One of our BLV brides, sorry, my mistake, Tim, Blu Lux Vacations bride, an affiliate of BL Inclusive. But as a bride, she's joined the BLV team after her wedding day, which featured a major oh crap moment. One of the biggest oh crap moments we've ever had for a wedding. I look forward to Madeline, you explaining what happened there and how you dealt with it. Eventually led her to join BLV as a destination wedding travel agent. She decided she wanted to make sure no other brides went through those oh crap moments, or if they did, that she could be there to help and guide them through every second. So it's going to be a full circle story you don't want to miss.
So, hey, Madeline, thank you for joining us on the BAI podcast. Tell me how you got into the whole idea for destination wedding. Let's take it way back. How did you start thinking about destination wedding? What brought you to the destination wedding?
Yeah, so destination wedding was actually the first idea that popped into me and my husband, fiance at the time's mind. I kind of shut it down pretty quickly because I didn't think it was going to be super practical for my family. I knew we were always going to do an adults only wedding, but I was still facing some minor family pressure. And then I just wasn't super certain about how that would all look and feel as you're planning a wedding where maybe you just never go visit either the venue, the specific resort you pick. So I really put it on the back burner. After exploring weddings in the United States, specifically California, I thought, oh, hell no, this is not going to happen. The pricing and just all the minutia, the options as somebody that prefers more of a kind of, here are your options, select which ones that apply. I'm much more of that type of bride where I kind of want it all like packaged up for me and just hit go. I felt very overwhelmed by the planning process in the United States. And then also the pricing was getting to be a little bit absurd for just really what we were looking to achieve, which was a great time with friends and family. We decided not to do any bachelor or bachelorette parties. So we really just wanted to get together with our closest friends and family. And we circled all the way back to destination wedding after all said and done.
How many guests did you have at your wedding?
We had 65. We invited 120 people, so we had a 50% attendance rate.
It's almost like it's right on with where we told you it might end up being.
Exactly. I know. I that was the expectation that was set, was that you should expect maybe 50 to 60% or 40 to 60%. But yeah, that was pretty much the average, which worked out really well for us because we got to invite everybody that we needed to invite, everybody we wanted to invite. And then, you know, those that could make it. And we were really happy.
Were there any things that you believed about a destination wedding before getting into it that you found out weren't true?
So I found out some things that were true. I was a little nervous about a destination wedding just because with any wedding, the unpredictable can happen. And so I was very determined to make sure that there was no surprises played on me at my wedding. But, you know, any wedding, Mexico, you know, Jamaica, United States, otherwise you are going to experience some hiccups, and that is okay. But the other biggest surprise, which is why I ultimately, you know, felt it really right to join the Blu Lux Vacations team, was my misperception of a travel agent involvement in a destination wedding. That was something that I was very unfamiliar with. I never grew up using a travel agent. I didn't understand the purpose in a destination wedding. And so during the start of my actual pursuit of securing my wedding, I was very resistant to them and the Facebook forums and any other methods. So I, you know, kind of steered clear of them until I realized, like, oh, I see the purpose and the need, and I absolutely need a travel agent now.
Well, that's really interesting. So how did you find out about us? And then, you know, how did that process begin? What did we do that made you be like, open your arms instead of like, no, I don't need you?
Yeah, so I mean, the perception that started was that, there's a ton of them to choose from. I didn't understand all the differences. I had actually joined a really helpful group because I was very certain I wanted a specific resort. And so I joined a Facebook group for brides planning their wedding there. I didn't know at the time that BAI owned that Facebook group, and we were kind of the moderators of that group because you guys created just a really inclusive environment where it's really just all brides talking to brides and sharing their wedding experience. So I felt very safe in that group and was just really collaborating with other brides. And I remember, James, I think you have like a questionnaire when you join it just to say, like, would you like to work with a travel agent? And I was like, nope, I'm good. And eventually I hit that stalemate and I was like, wow, I really need help. And so I reached back out to you and I was like, hey, I'm at this juncture. I have my wedding date secured. I actually thought I was going to do the room block myself and realized it was really complex. And I was like, what do I do? Who can help me? And that's where you connected me with Tim.
You actually got a contract before I even got a contract for you. Yeah. So I thought that was wild. You got to actually see the contract from your resort, and you get to see the contract that we work with you because, as travel agents, we have a contract with the resort, and then we negotiate a contract with you as well, and we kind of serve as like the middleman between you guys. There aren't really hidden surprises when you work through us. The contract that you saw was a contract that we gave to you, and working with the resort directly is the same as working with us, except you have us to help you.
Yes, I did. And I'm glad I had somebody in my corner for sure and not doing it solo. Like that was one of the biggest eye openers because the process was so transparent in my standpoint of it all because I did get all that information from the resort. I was ready to roll by myself as my own, like not being a travel agent yet, but ready to try to take on the responsibility until I realized I'd be managing everyone's flight information, not actual flights, but flight information, what rooms they wanted. I was like, I don't even know how to gather this information from my guests, let alone use the system that they were going to give me access to. So I realized you guys do offer very transparent pricing. There's no padded rates, which is what I was really afraid of working with a travel agent was either I was going to get charged a fee, which there's no fees working with BAI. I was afraid the room costs were going to be padded. If they tell me a room is, whatever, $500 a night, that it was going to be $600 a night because I was working with a travel agent, and none of that was true. And you guys even coordinated transportation for all of my guests, which is another component where I think my guests would have had to like kind of fend for themselves, or things would have been a little bit messy there as well.
How did you narrow down your destination/resort? What were your big role players in your decision making? Was it vibe? Were there non-negotiables? Tell me about that.
Yeah, no, it's a great question because it is really overwhelming with the amount of resorts there are. I felt very comfortable with certain resorts because I grew up vacationing a lot in Mexico. So I had a lot of experience going to different resorts throughout Cancun, Riviera Maya, even Cabo, Puerto Vallarta. So there was a lot for me to consider and think about. But I actually landed on my resort because my parents are members there. So I hadn't personally been to this specific resort, but it fit everything that I was looking for. It had a very, modern, like classic luxury feel to it. It wasn't so big where I felt like my guests were going to get lost or not find the rest of the group, which was something really important to me. I wanted a very like manageable size resort. I've been to resorts where you have to take shuttles and trams just to get to the pool, and that's not what I wanted for my group size. I wanted a resort where, people are going to be paying to come and, maybe make this a vacation for themselves. I wanted the rooms to feel appropriately priced, but also match a quality of experience. I didn't want to skimp on quality for, room costs or my wedding, just to like make people feel like they could come financially. I really wanted to make sure that if people were coming, they were going to get, food that they really enjoyed, drinks that they loved, and were going to feel like they were having an experience as well, not just coming to my wedding. So there was a lot of factors. I think that certain things I thought were important at the beginning didn't end up feeling so important later on. Like originally, I was like, I have to have a perfect beach. I want this, the white sand with clear blue water, and quickly learned where I ended up having my wedding. Like they're not known for like the hotel zone, Cancun beach style. It's all a little different. So it's like, you know what, I'm gonna, they have a really great pool. So there's just things you kind of give and take on for certain aspects. Ultimately loved their ceremony venue too, which really won me over.
Actually, I think our number one mistake that I see couples make when choosing a destination wedding resort is they choose a resort based off the price for the guest. And while I'm not discounting that, should absolutely be a consideration, you also need to think about the guest experience. I far too often we see couples choose a resort, a cheaper resort, with the idea that more of their guests may end up coming. In my experience, those guests still don't end up coming because if they don't want to spend $5,000, they don't want to spend $500, they don't want to spend $5. Like they're just not going to come, period. So you have to be okay with that as a destination wedding bride from the beginning. So it sounds like you made, in my opinion, you made the right choice there, not sacrificing the resort experience, because ultimately I tell people, it's like, remember, it's not just your wedding that your guests are going to remember. Like they're not going to just remember the ceremony and the reception dinner. It's the entire experience. It's from the minute they get on the plane. They're going to forever associate that trip and that resort experience with your wedding, not just your wedding night. So choosing the right resort is a reflection of your entire wedding and what your guests will always remember. So I think you did the right thing there. That said, what was the guest reaction? Did you get any feedback from them? Did they really love the resort? Did they think they spent too much money? Was there any feedback for that part?
This is so funny because I actually was just talking to my husband about it last night because now, being a travel agent, I'm seeing more pricing for every resort than I ever got to before. I'm like, wow, we picked a really great resort and we actually got a really good price for our guests for the quality. But people during our wedding were just coming up to us, just saying the resort was so gorgeous. Some of them had really even never taken a vacation as their own husband and wife together because, they got married, they had kids right away. They just never really got that moment. So for some people, this was a first vacation they've taken ever, or for the first time in a long time. And they all loved it and raved about it. And yeah, no feedback after the wedding, except it was beautiful. But, I feel really good about the decision we made and I wouldn't have done it any other way or picked a different resort.
Did you have some of your guests be apprehensive about coming for things other than money? How did you feel about that? How did you field those questions and concerns? And did it add to your stress, or were you just okay with it?
I have a very large family, and I know some of them well enough in their, travel experiences to know that some of them just don't enjoy going to Mexico. They've never been, they would never want to go. And that's something that I just always knew in the back of my mind would probably be a barrier to them coming. And again, as you mentioned before, as a destination wedding bride, you have to be okay and respectful of everyone's decisions. And I even knew in the back of my mind, gosh, if my best friend can't come for whatever reason, I have to be okay with that. And at some points, it does feel a little bit self-serving, but it really was what me and my husband wanted to do. But for family, there was no, on my end, when they declined the reservation, there's no bad blood. You maybe expect everyone to decline and you're super happy when somebody does accept. Nobody gave me any pushback or nobody challenged me. I just, respected whatever their RSVP decision ended up being.
Take us to the actual wedding day. I know there was a big moment later on in the evening, but before we get there, let's talk about the ceremony. Where was your locations? What was the setup like? And, how did the ceremony part meet your expectations?
I thought I was going to be a barefoot bride on the beach, which is why I felt like beach was going to be important to me at first. I learned it might be a little bit impractical and then it might be really windy on the beach. So that's where I wanted to pick a venue resort that had a couple different venue options in case I wanted to pivot or change. But I really did fall in love with this resort's gazebo, which is right in front of their beach sand. They have palm trees right behind it. It's in a very lush, area to the side of their resort. So there is no foot traffic from just other resort goers coming through it. And the gazebo is really well kept and beautiful. And I just saw these amazing floral arrangements that all the other brides were doing and gave me a lot of inspiration. So it ultimately turned out perfect. Everything I hoped for. And the florist vendor was incredible with that resort too. So everything exceeded expectations from a visual standpoint for the ceremony location. I was really happy.
So ceremony went off great. Obviously afterwards, did you have your cocktail hour in between?
Yes, we did a cocktail hour out at the pool terrace. This is where things got really um, clunky.
Yeah, lead us up. I want to know.
So
I want to know what they communicated with you. What was going on? Like, tell us the whole story.
yeah, so everything, was going great at the ceremony. We did experience power outages on this specific day in Mexico. So this was happening all throughout Cancun. I experienced it while I was getting ready, hair and makeup. The blow dryer went out like once or twice, and the curling iron, it's like, okay. AV was working at the ceremony just fine. But then, we go out to cocktail hour. It was very awkward. And I was like, wait, what's happening? Oh, there's no music. And so then I go up to my coordinator and I ask, like, why is there no music playing? Like, who you put on the playlist? And come to find out that because of the power outages, apparently the music wasn't working. And so I'm like, okay. And then I start to notice, like, it was daytime, but I'm like, wait, my string lights, I can see them kind of glowing and it's daytime. So there was things like on at the resort. So I was like, no, this isn't the truth. What's happening? Like the power's back on. Why is there no music playing? And I'm looking over at the DJ stand, and I come to find out that there was no DJ. He had gotten in a accident on the way to the wedding, apparently, potentially because of these power outages, but I did not have a DJ.
What was the weddings team doing through all of this? Were they coordinating you through your times through the ceremony and then kind of escorting people to the cocktail and they were coordinating all these things, but you didn't catch a concern on their face or what was that? Your interaction with the weddings department and wedding coordinator day of throughout the process of the ceremony, the cocktail, and forward.
Yeah, everything was going fine, and I think the confusing part even came in for me and my husband because we had a dance floor, we had a DJ stand, we had all their lighting, everything was set up. There was a whole crew of guys there just sitting around the DJ stand. I'm like, none of you guys are the DJ? Like, what's happening? But yeah, it was confusing at first because you see the setup, you see, people around it working on it, and you're just like, okay, I guess none of you can work the DJ stand.
That's what gets me. That's what gets me. Like, I'm so like, we have to have some music. Throw a Spotify playlist on, especially during cocktail hour. Like, somebody can do that. Did you ask them that?
So we made our own playlist. Like, we made start to finish every one of our playlists for our ceremony, cocktail hour, and dinner, and then reception. We were just like, please just push play on our playlist, plug it in, play it. And there was still some issues with the technology, the equipment, which is another mystery that I'm just not really able to solve. Eventually they got plugged in and that's what we used the rest of the night. But it took us a long time to get there. The whole cocktail hour, it took us the whole hour to get there. But yeah, it wasn't still without hiccups the rest of the night. We did our first dance because of the power outage at this point. The music was playing, but then the speaker kept cutting in and out. They didn't really have the audio like adjusted yet, or it was something was still happening with the power. But we tried our first dance, I think 3 times. So it was getting a little discouraging. So it was me, myself, and I shuttling us along for the evening. Every bride's dream to MC their own wedding.
How was the rest of the reception? Was it just a banger party with your Spotify playlist?
I mean, honestly, like we got the train on the tracks, and I cannot imagine what it would have been like to have had a real DJ, but we did have such great music that we like EDM, so it already, like, the music itself was pretty lively. I can't help but think like a lot was probably lacking, but everyone was on the dance floor the entire, post speeches. We had a great time, but you guys were so helpful the day after and beyond. And, I'll be honest, like, I was going through my reception thinking like, cool, I'm not going to have to pay for this DJ that didn't show up. And the next day, I was quite surprised by my resort's response. I just stopped by the coordinator's office and said like, hey, with the DJ not showing up, I wanted to discuss like what that's going to look like, because I feel like I should be receiving a refund for purchasing a DJ and all, everything that comes with it, and not actually receiving a service. And so I ended up getting to speak to a manager shortly after that about the situation, the weddings department manager. And he was very rude. He was very rude and very adamant that I was still provided a service, a DJ service, because my coordinator ran and got the cord to be able to plug in the cell phone. And I used the resort's DJ equipment instead of the equipment I purchased, essentially, to be able to play my Spotify playlists. So they said, you were still provided a service. We fixed things. The coordinator went above and beyond for you to fix it. So, we will send an email to the DJ department, or the DJ company, but don't expect much.
Madeline, take us through what happened after that.
And so I called Tim, was like, this is what's going on. And you immediately sprung into action, because I will say the Blu Lux team, the BAI team, you guys have connections that run so deep with all of these different people in all of these resorts that are crucial to the wedding process, but then also just the resort operations in general. And they care about customer service, hospitality, and the quality of experience that is being had by their brides and their couples. So from there, you guys took it away. I was very grateful that you and your team were able to just make things happen that I never would have been able to myself.
This is basically what I do for all of our team on the regular, is just fight when these things come up, and fight with the resorts and fight for our clients' best interest. We definitely understand weddings. We understand how important things like this are.
The staff and the workers that support the weddings are so incredible. Like, nobody's drink was empty. I even hired an extra bartender thinking we would need one, but the way that they were just on top of like everybody's drinks and service was just incredible.
What made you, after that, what made you decide, hey, you know what, I want to help other couples through this?
Bringing me back to what I originally thought a travel agent and destination wedding specialist was, and kind of cutting through that, working with Tim, seeing how supportive, responsive, and how much of a collaborator he was with me for any random question I might have had, and like kind of just pointing me where to go or giving advice. I realized like I had a friend in the process, because I had nobody else to relate to coming into like destination weddings, like, except other brides in Facebook groups. But just having somebody that I could text or call at any time was really nice. And then, coming out of on the other side, I was so fascinated by the relationships that you all have with these resorts, how closely you work with them, and all the other just types of weddings that happen. Also helping other brides, just I loved responding in the Facebook group, sharing my experiences. And so it felt like a really natural transition when Tim kind of, approached me and asked me to join the team, because I just felt like I had so much to share and offer. I'm also really passionate about it too. So it just made a lot of sense.
So, if there's one takeaway from Madeline's story, it is, even if the DJ doesn't show up, the wedding still goes on. Things happen. Flights get delayed, vendors drop the ball, weather shifts. The difference isn't whether something goes wrong, it's whether you planned for the right support when it does. And that's what we believe that BL Inclusive and Blu Lux Vacations, you're not just booking a resort, you're building a safety net. And thanks for listening to the BAI podcast. And if today's episode helped you feel a little more prepared or a little less alone, do us a favor, like and subscribe, and share with someone planning their big day. And remember, no matter what happens, we've got you.
Sunny down in Mexico, the sun gets high when